Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And as always, we're bringing you some amazing guests. And today we have a really good guest for you. But before we get started, I wanted to say that this is for educational purposes only. And if it's your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head over to that YouTube channel, hit that notification button, and subscribe to the channel. And make sure that if you guys got any questions or comments, put them in the comment section. And now, without further ado, like I said, today we have another amazing guest. My man Chris DT Gordon is here, and he's here to tell his story. Man, you guys are going to be amazed. So get those questions ready. I'm going to introduce my guest. How you doing, Chris? Welcome to the show.
Tony, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I know we've been like two ships passing in the night. Trying to get our schedules coordinated, but now we're here. It's a good day.
Yes, it's a good day, man. It's been a long time coming. We've been following each other on social medias for quite some time, and every time we try to get things to happen, you were doing one thing or I was doing something else. But as you say, now it's time those two ships have met up. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Tell people where you're from.
All right. Well, as you said, my name is Chris DT Gordon. I like to say that means darn terrific, but my parents know different. I live in Minnesota, but I am a proud son of Michigan, which means not only did my beloved Wolverines win the national championship, but my Lions won their first playoff game in 32 years. It's uncharted territory for me. I don't know how to feel, frankly. What other fans feel like? It's odd. It really is. But other than football talk, I am a loving husband and father of three great kids. I am an online middle school special educator. I've been teaching online for 12 years. That's right. Even before the pandemic, I was teaching online. I'm also a professional speaker and author, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yes.
And you might be proud of this, Tony. I'm not sure how big of a fan of you are of running, but I have run on a treadmill for 8 straight days. Well, aside from the day I took off, I wasn't going to run. But every time I went running, I have run on a treadmill without pressing stop prematurely.
Now, that's impressive.
Running on a treadmill by any distance is a test of wills. That stop button is right there. I can just press it and go watch Netflix. But instead, I keep running and watch Netflix. You have to love Wi-Fi.
No, this is true. And we do live in a great age nowadays to where we do have access to all virtual stuff. We got access to all over 50,000 channels now, which is huge because I remember when I was coming up, we only had 3.
3 and then Fox. Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, man, that's truly impressive. Now, as far as the treadmill, I do the treadmill once in a while, and I learned that from when I was bodybuilding. The rumor was, hey, don't run on the treadmill. You're going to lose muscle. So when you're a bodybuilder, you do everything that you can not to lose muscle, right?
Yeah.
So that was a big, huge misconception. I was like, so nowadays, you know what? I'm too old, and I'm afraid I may fall down, and I'd be the one that people have on the camera on their little
You'd be a
camera
TikTok.
phone. Yeah. People have a TikTok of me flying off the treadmill or something, banging my head on the wall or something.
You
Man.
belt. You belt on the other side. That way you fall, you're caught, and then you just do this on TikTok.
I don't know if that's better or worse. I don't know if that's better or worse, man. But yeah, Chris, let's talk about your journey, brother, man. Because the last time that we talked, you was telling me about a medical thing that happened with you. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't want to give too much away. Let's talk about that, man, because that was truly interesting, and like, wow.
Yeah, definitely. So, in March of 2015, I did something that probably no one else in the world has ever done, which is I scratched the back of my right hand on their garage wall, which means everyone's done that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've scratched myself today. You probably scratched yourself today, Tony.
All the time. All the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. We scratch our hands all the time. But this particular incident was fateful because 3 days after scratching my right hand, I woke up to find a lacrosse ball sized bump on my right elbow.
Mm.
And I usually don't wake up like that. I usually end up with no bumps on my elbows. And so I decided to go to the urgent care clinic here in town. The doctor looked at it and said, well, it could be bursitis, which is an inflammation sac of the bursa joint, but keep an eye on it. Let us know if anything happens. So I went home. I kept an eye on it as that bump grew and grew and grew until my right arm was 3 times the size of my left.
Mm.
I like to joke and say that I was the Incredible Hulk in mid-transformation because I definitely I look like I could just tip over on the right. It was so huge. Well, we had to find babysitters for the kids because at the time my oldest was 6 and we had 2-year-old twins.
Mm.
So we found a babysitter. My wife Becky took me to the emergency room in town. They started taking my vitals and then found that not only did I have a ginormous appendage, I also had gone septic.
Oh, wow.
And so if you're not sure what sepsis is, it's a reaction that the body has to a foreign agent. So whatever got into that scratch was causing my body to go into shock, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And one consequence of sepsis is it sends a chemical into your body, into your bloodstream to fight off said foreign agent.
Right.
Well, that chemical alone could kill you. So I had poison coursing through my veins and a huge right arm. Actually, not the craziest Saturday night I ever experienced. But
pretty close, though, depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah. I thought I lived a pretty normal life, but then I thought about it. No, I've had crazier Saturday nights, but this one is in the top 5. So they kept me overnight for observation. And even then, the next day, the doctor came to my bedside and said, Mr. Gordon, this is beyond us. We can do nothing more for you here. Where do you want to go? Well, I live 2 hours west of Rochester, Minnesota, which is home to the world-renowned Mayo Clinic.
All right.
It's also home to the less renowned but equally wonderful Bill and Dee, who were Becky's parents. So I told the doctors to fly me to the Mayo Clinic. I called Becky to tell her the situation and asked her to let mom and dad know that they were going to get some unexpected visitors for the next couple of days. So I'm flown to Rochester. I am immediately admitted into the St. Mary's Hospital, which is the flagship facility in the Mayo Clinic system. And it's there that they diagnosed me with necrotizing fasciitis, also known as flesh-eating bacteria. And if it sounds like a superhero origin story come to life, it basically is.
Yeah.
I mean, I am like one word away from radioactive spider bite. So they get me in the surgery since they know what they're dealing with. The first thing they do is they remove the infected skin, tissue, and bacteria from the back of my right hand where I got the scratch, all the way up through my arm, past my shoulder to the base of my neck, down my chest, around my rib cage, and up through my back.
Wow.
So, and that's called debridement. They had to clear out all that infected skin tissue bacteria, all of it. When they did that, they found that the infection had gone so far into my right arm, particularly my forearm, that they decided the second surgery was going to be to amputate it. And it wasn't a question to them. They even told Becky this. However, once they started preparing for surgery, the physical therapist or the occupational therapist in surgery saw that it still had hand function. So they elected to remove a 15-inch by 4-inch flap of skin from my left thigh and place it on my right hand and forearm. You could probably see it right here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how clear it is. And since this is my thigh on my hand, I call this my thand. Copyright pending. But now this becomes a situation of when you give a mouse a cookie, you know how you solve one problem only to have another problem present itself?
Yeah.
So sure, my arm was saved, but now I have a huge gaping hole in my leg that won't heal by itself. So they took out a muscle from my thigh, one of my quadricep muscles, and then installed a shoestring type contraption on the inside of the wound and knobs on either side of the outside of the wound. And over time, over the next couple of weeks, they tightened those knobs to close the wound.
Wow.
So instead of a quad, I now have a tri. Meanwhile, I still have all this exposed skin and tissue up on my upper right side. So doctors took a skin graft harvester. You can imagine a cheese slicer on steroids.
Oh, geez.
And they would run that up and down my back and my thighs to get enough skin graft harvesting samples to place on my arm, shoulder, chest, and back, which is why I look like a discount Deadpool. So it does make for excellent cosplay. I've gone as Battle Action Wolverine. It's awesome, and people get freaked out about it. And I do scare children. I do scare children when I go swimming, though, because you don't. It's not normal you see a guy missing a nipple, but what do you do? Yeah. But if I ever go running without my shirt and I get arrested for indecent exposure, they can only charge me 50%.
Dude, I love your attitude.
Thank you.
The way that you just explained that, man, I think the average person would be terrified, right? And so now it leads me to the question. You're going through all of this. Your wife Becky, she's also going through this with you. Did you happen to? How is she reacting to everything that you're going through? Because I know she has to be terrified, right? You know what I'm saying? You're being skin grafted. You're having muscles taken out of one place and put into another. And a flesh-eating bacteria, right? How is she handling this, and as well as your kids? Because they have to be worried about their dad and her husband.
Yeah, the kids, my 6-year-old, he knew I was sick, but he didn't know the specifics. The 2-year-olds, the twins, they knew something was wrong, but they didn't know nearly as much as Becky or Josh did, my son. And so they were just happy to be at Nanny and Papa's. But they also were getting a lot of love and support from other people. But Becky is my superhero. I talk about superheroes. And people say, "Oh, you're a superhero." Without Becky, I wouldn't be here. And if I could back up a little bit, when she found out that I was going through this situation, she called Jeff, my brother, who lives in Michigan. So, And he, as soon as she told him what was going on, he found the first flight out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, to Rochester and took a shuttle to uh, down to the hospital. And he took a shuttle and he flew to the Twin Cities, and took a shuttle down to Rochester. She coordinated getting to mom and dad's. She started calling people on, her side, started connecting with people on her Facebook, started connecting with people on my Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
She worked it out at her school that she would have the next 2 weeks, used for used for sick leave, and then coordinated to have a guest teacher every Friday. So she and the kids can visit me over the next how many ever weekends they could, until I was discharged.
Mm-hmm.
She is phenomenal. I definitely, how you say you need to marry above your station.
Yeah.
I can't see the station she stands on in order to marry it. I definitely am punching above my weight when it comes to the I won the marriage lottery, basically.
See, that's awesome, man. That is
because
truly awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that she didn't have a tough time. When I was in a 5-day coma when the majority of the huge surgeries took place.
Mm.
So I had no recollection of what was going on. And, she, told me, and, and my brother Jeff shares stories about how they would, cry and worry about me. But it's because of that worry that prompted her to take all those actions, to be such a rock star for everyone else.
Right.
So no, I'm very, very blessed that she is my wife and my best friend to boot. And so, and in fact, she was able to coordinate all this while still being able to function as a mom and as a teacher, and still get everything done,
Right.
So no, it was, and but to fast forward, she's the reason why I'm here, not only because of my health, but because why I am talking with you today on this podcast. During one of our earlier conversations in the hospital, at that time, I had no idea what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Yes, my life was saved. Spoiler alert. But I didn't know how I was going to heal properly. I didn't know, how much functionality my arm was going to have.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how much of my physiology was going to change, how much my functionality of my leg was going to change, because they took an entire muscle out of it.
Right.
So, and, doctors were talking about potential PTSD, potential struggles with acclimating to my new reality. I had no concept of what I was going into, because the only time I ever spent a night in the hospital before this was when Becky had our first child. That was the only time I ever stayed a night in the hospital. And now I'm dealing with this. So I had what I call personal bacteria. I had questions in my mind to which I had no answers. And it started sending me down a negative spiral. Because when you have all questions and no answers, your mind doesn't go positive.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
So I was dealing with that when she started telling me about how people in our various communities were stepping up. Our local law enforcement were keeping an eye on the house, because the phrase flesh-eating bacteria spreads as quickly as the actual bacteria does in a small town.
Yeah.
Everyone knows your business. All right. So when you get someone who comes down with something that you hear about in a science fiction story, people knew.
Yeah.
our neighbors were snow blowing our walkways and snow blowing our driveways. Some of my colleagues from my online school who lived in the Rochester area were going to Bill and Dee's house to drop off food, toys, clothes for the kids. As I said, my brother flew in from Michigan for a week and a half. He bought me an iPad, which would actually play a big part in my recovery a little while later. A friend of Becky's from high school started a GoFundMe account, which actually counteracted the loss of wages I incurred from missing an entire quarter of the school year.
Yeah.
So when Becky told me all of these things, I felt all that personal bacteria wash away. Wow. And I was left with what I now call the attitude of gratitude, or TAG for short. And it doesn't, and I just want to say right up front, just because I had this new outlook of life didn't mean my problems were fixed.
Right.
I still look like an extra from The Walking Dead. You know, I still had missing skin, a missing nipple, a missing muscle. None of that changed. But my mindset automatically shifted to a mindset of gratitude, because instead of thinking about what I was missing, I thought about how much I still had.
Mm-hmm.
And I started asking myself 3 new questions, but these questions I could answer. So the first question I asked myself, Tony, was, what good things did I have in my life? Now, Tony, I'm going to ask you, what good things do you have in your life?
Oh, man. My health, my eyesight, and my purpose.
Those are excellent things to be thankful for.
Yes.
And I would consider those big things. We should be thankful for the big things. And I was too when I thought of that, when I asked myself that question. My faith, my family, my friends, my house, my job, all awesome things to be thankful for. But then I decided to ask myself, what about the small things? What about those seemingly insignificant parts of our lives that we overlook, but actually bring us that daily dose of joy that makes our days memorable?
Mm-hmm.
So back to that iPad my brother bought me, I downloaded Netflix. And at that time, the first season of Daredevil dropped.
Ooh.
Have you watched Daredevil?
Oh, you already know.
Yeah.
You already know.
I can't tell you how many times I watched that hallway fight scene.
Oh, my God.
But that show, not only is it a phenomenal show, I mean, it's now being brought back on Disney Plus. It's now canon to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it was a way for me to detach from my situation amidst the surgeries. I mean, I would watch the show, I would watch episodes in between surgeries.
Okay.
And so for me to be able to detach and enjoy this phenomenal piece of art while I was being, put back together was a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about the fact that the hospital room window was situated in a way that the sun never shined in my face. And I know that sounds really odd and random, but when you are sequestered or confined to a single space where you have virtually no control over your environment,
mm-hmm.
not having to ask someone for one more thing is a blessing. And then I thought about the hospital pizza. Oh. Tony, what is your relationship with hospital food?
Non-existent. Yeah. And the reason being, when it comes down to hospital food, I try to avoid it at all costs, right? The last time I was in a hospital, They gave me a menu. I looked at the menu. I picked up my phone. And I called a buddy of mine. I said, "Look, I'm at the hospital. I'm in this room. I need you to go down to Raising Cane's. I need you to get me a 12-piece chicken tender. Get 3 things of sauce and get those seasoned fries. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna need you to pick up an extra large Pepsi and give me a bottle of Mountain Dew. I'll see you here shortly, right? Just hide it when you come in."
Yeah, smug on your arm.
Yeah,
What do you got for dessert? Oh, nothing.
You
No.
hide it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have
definitely
to
not
hide that.
food
We
that
can't do
my
that.
friend prefers to yours. Well, I will have to say the hospital pizza at St. Mary's was chef's kiss, phenomenal.
I'm gonna take your word for it.
Some of the
I'm gonna
best
take your
pizza,
word for it.
some of the best pizza I ever had in recollection. Now, mind you, this was after a month of not having pizza.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
I also was under heavy medication. So who knows how much that has to factor in. But the fact that I still remember it, the fact that I still appreciate it that much shows
Yes.
you how much it had an effect on me. And
Right.
being able to, as I say, be gratuitous with my gratitude has paid off handsomely for me. And not in terms of monetarily, but I am by and large in a good mood every day. Now, that doesn't mean my life is perfect, doesn't mean I don't get upset about things, but I can look around this office and find hundreds of things that I am thankful for and I put value in because they're in my life. For example, for some reason, I started collecting rubber ducks. So here's a horse rubber duck. Here's a bat duck. Here's another horse duck. I just grabbed 5 at random. A police duck, and
Now,
I have a lot of horse ducks apparently.
I have to say, I remember. How long ago did you get the bat duck?
A couple of years ago.
You know, and the reason why I ask is because I remember when you got it. I was following you on Facebook, and you had put a picture up on Facebook, and I put an LOL on there. And that was the reason why I was like, I do remember the duck.
Yeah. I have a collection of rubber ducks, and I love them because the fact I obviously have a lot of horse ducks. I didn't realize how many I had until I grabbed them, but because they all come from different places, my kids sometimes give me ducks, and they are worth next to nothing. But it's the value I put into them because they give me joy and they put a smile on my face that makes me feel wealthier than my bank account will ever show.
That's amazing.
And that gratuitous gratitude, I call it, has helped me in many, many different ways. For example, we were talking about me running on the treadmill earlier. I'm training for a marathon on May 4th, which, side note, I am going to wear a Star Wars shirt for.
All right.
Yeah. Well, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. So, but anyway, I'm in training. It is on Saturday when I ran 15 miles in the treadmill. It was -10. I'm not going to run 15 miles in -10 degrees. Some other people might do that. Awesome for you. But my wife got me a treadmill. Now I'm running on this treadmill. Again, stop button right there. Anytime I want to, boop, done. But I'm able to look at the mileage I have run so far. And I actually posted about this a couple days ago for running tips. Instead of looking at how much you have to run, like how much running left you have to do, like how much more mileage you have to put in, figure out the percentage you've already run. For an example, I ran 15 miles on Saturday. And I look at, at the 5 mile mark, I still have 10 miles to go. But if I look at it as a percentage, I'm a third of the way done, 33% already done. Well, hey, I can do 66 more percent. And so by looking at what I have, by finding the value in what I've achieved and what I have in my life, again, doesn't make this bat duck any more valuable monetarily. I'm not going to cash this in for $1 million, but I'm going to be hard pressed to sell it either because I find value in it. And so by doing that, my gratitude, my attitude is always, for the most part, positive because of how I see the world. So that was the first question. What good things do I have in my life? The second question I asked myself was, who do I appreciate in my life? And so, again, I thought about the big groups, my people who share my faith with, my family, my friends, my colleagues, my neighbors. But at the time, I was thinking about, well, the nursing staff at St. Mary's in the Mayo Clinic system not only were world-renowned and top-notch professionals, but they went out of their way to make me feel cared for in not just a professional healthcare way.
Right.
So you ever gone to the hospital, Tony, and you see people with those posters on the wall, the getting to know you poster?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have, your name, blah, blah, blah. One of the questions on mine was favorite movie. Now, Tony, I have a bat duck. You see a stormtrooper right behind me. In fact, my wedding ring has "I know" written in Arabesh, which is Star Wars language.
Yeah.
And I already told you I love the MCU. So you could probably guess what my favorite movie is.
Star Wars.
Close. Blazing Saddles.
Blazing. Oh, see, you weren't supposed to do that. You were supposed to go with Star Wars because you got Stormtrooper. No. See, you tricked me. We got to talk about this.
Ninja Turtles up there. But here's the thing. I thought about what is the one movie I could watch over and over again and not get sick of it. You give me Bart and Jim all day. I absolutely adore that movie. So
Blazing Saddles was a good movie, man.
Oh man, best comedy of all time.
That was a really good movie.
So I have them put Blazing Saddles on my poster. A couple of weeks later, Chris, on a Monday morning, Chris, the head nurse, she practically runs into my hospital room. She's so excited for some reason. She says, "Chris, I was at a garage sale. I saw this. It reminded me of you, and here it is." She handed me a DVD copy of Blazing Saddles. That she saw at a garage sale on her day off.
Now, see, that's when you know you've had an impact on somebody's life, man.
But and that could definitely be true. But the fact that she was able to not only recognize my favorite movie in a garage sale bin from a poster that she maybe even glances at, but she recognized my favorite movie, but she bought it out of her own money, makes that copy of Blazing Saddles one of my prized possessions.
Yeah.
Not because of the monetary value, but because of the love and friendship in which it was given.
Yeah.
And so I will always appreciate her for that. And so now, and here's the thing. We live in a world of almost 8 billion people. And I have a shocker for you, Tony. Not all of us get along. I know.
I understand.
Sorry to blow your mind with that one.
Hey, you
But
know what? I sometimes don't get along with myself, so I understand.
I hear you. But I actually have a tool to help you potentially gain, help get along better with other people. Maybe not get the friendship level, but to get a better sense of who someone is. It's called the
Right.
triple A. And it's
Okay.
called the
Okay.
triple A because you actively augment your appreciation of someone.
Hmm.
So first, you pick someone in a social circle that you have. Could be work, could be family, could be neighbors, could be old friends. And you take them out of that social circle. Not because you're voting them off the island or anything, but because you want to remove your personal connection to them. Then you look at them without any connection to you and you see how many ways does this person positively affect the world around them. How do they parent? How do they do their job? How do they interact with others? How do they give back to the community? So you look at all the different ways this person benefits the world. And then you put them back in that social circle that you share, and you realize you have a relationship with this awesome person. And so I like to use my wife, Becky, as an example. Yes, she's my wife, my partner, my best friend. But if I take that connection away from us and look at her by herself, I see that she's a fantastic mother, a loving daughter and sister, a brilliant teacher, a well-read historian, a great athlete. She is almost as geeky as I am, but she plays it really close to the vest. She's a benefit to the community as a whole. But when I put her back in that social circle that we share, she's still all of those things. But now she's also my wife, my partner, my best friend to boot. Again, I am punching way above my weight class in this regard. And the thing about the AAA is, Tony, you can use this not only with friends and loved ones, but try it with someone that you may not get along with, someone you may not see eye to eye. Because when you're able to remove that connection, that personal connection with that person, you might see that, wow, if I take off the connection between the two of us, I can see more clearly that this person actually is a good parent, or they do their job well, or they are a good owner to their animals. And this might not make our connection personally stronger, but I can develop more of a level of respect for them. And we can appreciate, wow, this person benefits the world in a positive way. And I am not the center of the universe. I am not the center of society. So it doesn't have to matter how we interact. I can still respect that person for how they treat the world around them. And then maybe eventually we become better friends, or, we develop a stronger sense of friendliness. I can still appreciate that person for how they affect the world.
Okay.
And I think if we look at the world through the lens of how much people affect the world around them without any personal connection to us, we will see that, wow, there are a lot of great people around us.
That's true. You kind of make me feel bad for wanting to throw punch people.
I'm not saying that we have, you can't have the. I mean, it is human nature, but we also have to step up, Tony.
I mean, but look, I understand that, but there's just some people that need to be throw punched. I know some kids that need to be throw punched. Okay, like I got a buddy who has a 6-month-old baby. I think the baby needs to be throw punched from time to time. Okay, me and the baby, we get along, but not all the time. All right, so I'm just like, wow, I got to look at the.
Chris, editor, please cut that last part out.
My joy.
A baby, but I totally get it. I understand there are some babies that that frustrate you, But
no, the baby hasn't frustrated me. Only reason why I said the baby need to be throat punched is because the baby throat punched me. All right,
oh,
the
well,
baby throat punched me like 4 times before I even knew what happened. The baby was like, and every time I pick the baby up, the baby throat punches me, right, or either bites my nose. So I'm
well,
like,
you
you know
gotta
what? I
block.
threatened the baby, huh?
Wax on,
I
wax
tried
off.
to. I try to. The baby's like a karate kid on steroids, right? You know what I'm
All
saying?
right.
The baby's always like fast hands on everything. Only when I'm holding him. Only when I'm holding him.
Okay.
So he has me at a disadvantage.
Turn the
Okay.
baby around. Make it fight for you and instead of against you. So
Nah, me and that baby, we have fun, man. No, I love the 3 A's that you just mentioned there, because it does, like, I have a specific way that I treat people, and things like that. And the reason being is because I love to show up, right? And I think that's when you think about the 3 A's, it's showing up, right? It's showing up in their space, showing up as your authentic self, but without any sort of expectations. And then you, like you said, removing yourself from the personal relationship and adding value to what they add to society, right? You know what I'm saying? Not all the craziness and things like that. And I think that's a really good way of looking at things, because I think when you do things like that, you can now look at yourself, or hope that someone looks at you and is able to do the same thing, right? That adds
yeah.
value to your life, to how you show up, and the people that show up in your life, right? Okay, all right.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your thoughts on that. Yeah. So that was the second question I asked myself was, who in my life do I appreciate? And then I thought about the last question was, what good things could I do to give other people a reason to be grateful? And in the hospital, I really couldn't do much. My job was to heal and recover and get out of there as soon as I could
Mm-hmm.
safely. So I did that. But once I was discharged, I started taking action. Once I was able to run again, I started picking up trash on the road or on the sidewalk or in people's yards without getting too trespassy.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
people don't like them in your yard with even when you're picking up trash, apparently. So you gotta respect that. So I would start, I would snow blow my my neighbors' walkways and sometimes their driveways, especially if I know they're not home. And then there's the classic opening doors for people. Because when you think about it, when you're opening a door for someone, you are actively stopping whatever you are doing to let that person move on with their day. And
Right.
if we learn nothing else from the pandemic, Tony, is that at any time, someone could be having the worst day of their lives, of their life. They could just be just having a horrible day. But by helping them even a little bit, maybe we could add a little sunshine to their cloudy day.
Mm.
And who knows what effect that could have.
That's
So,
very true.
that's why I ask people, when you are at the grocery store and they say, "Hey, you want to bump up bump up to an even dollar amount to, to a charity?" Yes, go ahead and do that. You know, Help people out. If you can, donate your time or volunteer somewhere. Go ahead, please do it. If there's a way that you can help others feel the gratitude that you feel, do that, because that's only going to help the world around them. They're going to want to help other people. And you get an idea that this is where tag comes in. Because if you ever played tag, Tony, you know
Oh
that
yeah.
playing it by yourself is boring and embarrassing. Or maybe I'm just speaking from personal
That's true.
experience. Yeah. Tag yourself and you get like, it again. Oh. But The more people involved in tag, the more fun it is. So
That's very true.
by playing tag with the attitude of gratitude, you're able to involve other people, help them feel more grateful for what they have, despite what they might be facing, and make the world a better place.
I like that. I like that because it's right along the same lines. The work, doing grief work, right? It's easy for the grief practitioner to get wrapped into um, the emotional journey that we sometimes go on with individuals, or we have a tendency of carrying that burden, so whomever we're with don't have to carry that with them. And what and I've done something similar to what you did, to add value into people's lives and things like that. And I'd share a little bit of it with you. Uh, what I've learned to do is when I am with people, instead of worrying about the time in the day, because in my days time don't exist. It's just moments. So I've learned to chalk my days up into moments. And what I mean by that, so say for instance, I get up in the morning, I get up and do my thing. Now, when I go out into the world, if I happen to run across someone that's not having such a great day, I realize that when they see me and I see them, there's a moment that's happening right now, right? So now I can show up, and I can show up and be in that space with them, and I can let them unload, and I can ask one simple question: how are you? I see everything else that's going on around you. I see how you're interacting in this moment, in this world. So now that I have your attention and it's just you and I there, how are you? What I find is such a strong phrase that most people don't get, that when they're asked, the moment changes.
Mm-hmm.
The moment changes, and they tend to look and say, wow, you know what? I'm not okay. And I tend to go, yeah, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But
It's
if you
okay
have a
not to be
moment,
okay.
yeah, it's okay not to be okay. But sometimes people don't want to be told it's okay not to be okay, right? That kind of comes in later. So you kind of in that moment with them, and you have this great conversation with them. They change their whole mentality. It does a few things. They no longer carry that negative energy with them somewhere else, right? They're leaving it right there. But when they walk away, no matter if I see them 2, 3, maybe 5 years from now, they're going to remember the way I made them feel. And
Yeah.
what in that moment, when that moment is gone, and I love this analogy, when that moment is gone, it's like the wind. You can't, don't take that moment with you. Let it pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a cool breeze on a hot day. It's hot to begin with, but as it begins to pass, you enjoy the sensation. You enjoy the way it made you feel. And then once you release that moment, you go into the next moment and see what experiences those can give you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you
Exactly.
enter into those moments without any sort of expectation, any sort of judgment, any sort of self-validation, because in that moment you realize when you show up, it's not about you,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not about you anymore. It's about that moment and what's gained out of that moment. Not monetary, but spiritually,
Yeah.
emotionally, right? We're physical beings. Am I allowed to touch you? Am I allowed to hug you? Because that's maybe what you need. Hell, maybe even what I need too, right? So it's a welcoming situation to be able to carry on through those moments. Now, throughout the day, you may have different moments with different people. So therefore your experiences are that much more valuable with each person that you encounter, whether if it's, hey, how you doing today? Or you have a great day now, right? So, something similar.
No, yeah, and those moments, though fleeting, do carry emotional weight, like you said. An
Hmm.
experience I had over this past summer was I was down in Kansas City visiting family, and we're staying at a hotel that happened to have a jogging path right in front of it. So I decided to go out for a run. On the way out, because I ran an out and back. On the way out, I see a woman who has a pink shirt, which was very visible, very bright pink. And on the shirt, it said "Mischief Managed." Now, do you understand the reference?
I do. I definitely do. Yes.
Yes. So, and for those who don't know, it's a reference to Harry Potter. So,
Yes.
I greet her. I say, "Hey, nice shirt." She says, "Thanks." She goes on her way. I go on mine. I turn around and I'm coming back. And probably within a good half mile of that first spot, we encounter each other again. And we kind of wave. And then I say, "Have a great day." She says, "You as well." And then I retort with, "Always." Another Harry Potter reference.
Hmm.
She laughs so hard, Tony, that I could hear it clear across the road over the car that just drove between us. Now, I will likely never see her again. I didn't catch her name. I don't know her handle on Facebook.
Right.
But that moment, obviously, it has stayed with me for the last 7 months. It may stay with her. She may, remember it. She may forget it. But that connection will always be there.
Hmm.
And it's because I referenced her shirt, and I was able to notice not just the shirt but her connection to it. And
Hmm.
because Harry Potter obviously means enough to her that she has a shirt about it. And Mischief Managed is not like, I mean, it's not like having the name of a movie. I mean, that's in the third book. You have to
Right.
have
Right.
read the first two books to start getting an idea of what it means. And so, by, as you said, seeing people and recognizing who they are and what they like, you don't have to like Harry Potter to you know to respect that they like it. In fact, when I go to comic book conventions, I'll see lots of people dressed in as anime characters I don't know. I know they're
Right.
anime characters. They have that look, but otherwise, I have no idea who this person is. But I can still say, "Hey, I love your costume," and I can respect the amount of work that they put into it.
Hmm.
And again, they may not remember that interaction, but for that moment, it may have made their day. Maybe someone was rude to them. Maybe
Yeah.
someone said
Yeah.
it wasn't good. But if we can give someone that moment of happiness, that moment of respect, and that moment of gratitude,
Hmm.
who knows how much of a drop we're putting it into their bucket?
That's very true, man. That's so very true. And that is I love that because that's a great way to move through life. That's a true recipe for happiness, right? But self happiness more than anything else. And I'm all for that,
Mhm.
And I wish more people would develop those philosophies that make them happy. I really do. Because we in the world that we live in today, we just got a new threat of World War III from China, of course. We got the war going over in um, Gaza and Israel, and then we got the war still going on over in Ukraine. We look at the state of the world that we're in over here in the United States. People are tearing themselves apart. I would love to see more Chris Gordons in the world.
Thank you.
Showing that appreciation, showing that it's okay to have differences, right? And it's okay to want to make others feel good and appreciate it, because I think that's where we lack in our humanism, right? We're all humans having a human experience in this world. And we sometimes can get sidetracked with the heaviness of inflation, the fentanyl epidemic, the crisis that we just went through with COVID. That's still a main thing. The mental health epidemic that we're going through, and so many other things that we can focus on, right? But you've taken it out of the equation and said, yeah, I know that we're going through this. And you may not like me too much, but I'm gonna tell you something. If I can, I see what you offer to this world, so I don't have to take what you're saying personally. I appreciate what you do and how you show up in this world, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, brother. When I say this, I wish more people could develop that Chris Gordon philosophy and see people with that appreciation. It has to be a way to be, what I'm saying? I mean, do you got like an injection that we can give people?
No,
no,
it's not FDA approved yet, but
that's okay. That's okay. We're on human trials right now.
Well, I have actually, there's something that I do tell people, going back to my first question. I said that you have to be gratuitous with your gratitude. Well, there's something that everyone can put on. They're called gratitude goggles. Now, have you ever heard the movie Free Guy?
Yes.
With Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Well, in the movie, and this is not too spoilery, he is an NPC, a non-playable character in a video game. During one play session, he finds these glasses. He puts them on, and his whole world is changed, because he not only sees what he would normally see, but he sees everything that a human player sees. He sees side quests over here. He sees a weapon cache right there. He sees a health box right in front of him. He sees all of these possibilities that blow his mind and increase his awareness of the world and change the trajectory of his life, digital or otherwise. If we put on gratitude goggles and we see all that we can be thankful for around us, it doesn't erase all the problems. I put on gratitude goggles. I still have skin grafts. I'm still missing a nipple. My volleyball block is worthless now because skin grafts are really, really tight.
Yeah.
I still have bills to pay. I still have students to teach. I'm still struggling to find teaching or speaking gigs. But if I wear those gratitude goggles and I look around and I see all those rubber ducks, all those Transformers I love to collect ever since I was a kid. That Weird Al picture of me being hugged by Weird Al. All these great books, all these pictures of my family and friends. If I focus on what is great around me, what is good around me, what I can put value in because I'm grateful for it, it doesn't erase the negative things, but it definitely puts them in a more diminished position. And by diminished, it makes them more manageable. Because when I was in the hospital, yeah, it was a big deal that I could barely move my arm. And for a
Right.
time, I couldn't even walk. I had to relearn walking. This is from a guy who a week before the hospital ran a 5K in 19 and a half minutes. I had to learn to walk again for a time. But by having such a high level of gratitude, it was much easier for me to take on that task.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grant thee, Tony Lynch, a pair of gratitude goggles. I grant thee, viewer of this podcast, gratitude goggles that you can wear all the time, no prescription needed. They don't erase all the bad things, but they definitely accentuate the good that's already around you.
I love that.
A bill is coming in the mail.
Chris, how can people find you?
Well, they can find me at Chris DT Gordon on most socials. I'm now on TikTok and making videos on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads, Instagram. I have my website, chrisdtgordon.com. You can also find my new book, From Survivor to Striver, How Gratitude Can Transform You into a Superhero. This is on Amazon. But if you DM me, I will set something up where I will send you an autographed copy. It tells my story of survival and recovery. It details a lot of different stories since then. It also has a 6-month gratitude journal where you could talk about the different things that you are grateful for on a daily basis. It includes weekly prompts. It's a great way for you to practice that gratitude on a daily basis. And if you know of someone who's looking for a speaker to infuse gratitude, positivity, and resilience into your school or your work culture, please keep me in mind. Again, Chris DT Gordon is the handle I use for most everything I'm on.
All right. And one other thing before I let you go. If you can leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
I will leave them with this phrase: pass on perfection and go for greatness. Our world is inundated with images of perfection. We see models on billboards. We see car ads. We see that perfectly crafted hamburger in a magazine. But how long did it take that model to look that good?
Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to take before that car gets a ding? Do you really want to eat that hamburger with how glossy that cheese looks? Perfection, at best, is fleeting. And at worst, is maddeningly futile. However, if you are consistent in your practice, if you are diligent in your efforts, and you are perseverant through the bad times as well as the good, you might reach perfection once in a while, but you will always be great.
Man, I love that. I love that. Chris, it was well worth the wait, brother. You know, saying this conversation that we have, I'm so glad that we were actually able to get together and have do this show, man. So many gems there, man. Beautiful soul. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you for being on here. Thank you for being patient and acting, just having your time here today. We got a lot more to talk about. With everyone who has showed up today, thank you for showing up. Thank you for the comments over there and everything. And you guys can find Chris's information. I will be putting it on the YouTube description, so you guys have all that information. Chris, I'm going to DM you because I need a signed copy of your book, man, to go in my collection as well. And I would like to also send you a copy of my book as well. You know, do like even trade type thing.
All right.
So with that being said, you guys, thank you for tuning in. I'm Tony Lynch. This is going to conclude another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. If you made it this far and you haven't already, do me a favor. Go over and hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. And if you know anyone who could benefit from these conversations, do me a favor, share this with them. Now, with that being said, thank you guys for everything. Thank you for the support. Until next time, you guys keep your head up. Peace. We are out.